points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mandel. We are gathered here this evening to talk about the Winnipeg Jets' 3-2 overtime victory over the Los Angeles Kings. The Jets getting a late game-tying goal and a game-winning goal in overtime from two atypical goal scorers in DeMelo and Mark Scheifele. Gentlemen, this was a game that the Los Angeles Kings were the better of the two teams. They had the game in hand until really we have to start almost with the unexpected, out of nowhere goal by DeMelo tying the game late in the third period that allows the Jets to get it into overtime. It's, it was really a sleepwalking game for the Jets up to that point in time. They get a fortuitous break in an odd man rush and a game-tying goal off a stick of a guy who hasn't scored since March 2019. Not a pretty victory for the Winnipeg Jets, but 2 points is 2 points. And as they sit right now with the Blues in action, the Predators in action, and the Wild getting underway in about 10 minutes time, the Winnipeg Jets are atop the Central Division.
Yeah, absolutely. And, after Mark Scheifele, I know you want to get into the DeMelo goal, and I absolutely love that goal, Drew, no doubt. But, I said to Dave, after Mark Scheifele scored the overtime winner, that reminds me of the 2018-19 Jets, when oftentimes you were badly outplayed, or 2017-18 Jets for that matter. You're badly outplayed and you still win the game. Like the Kings guys basically played a perfect road game for 55 or whatever minutes, right? And Dylan DeMelo's goal, first off, we have to give those assists by Andrew Kopp and Logan Stanley, those were big assists. Those assists were earned. A great stretch pass by Stanley, right, Dave? And the Andrew Kopp just kind of slows the play down, finds Dylan DeMelo, and DeMelo obviously picks the perfect time to jump up into the play. And then obviously Philip Deneau, he gets a piece of that puck, right? He's trying to stop DeMelo from getting a shot off, but it unfortunately makes it more difficult for Cal Peterson to make that save, right, boys? Because it's a little bit more unpredictable. And so, that was a huge goal. And you thought, shorthanded, we should mention as well, right? And you thought with Pierre-Luc Dubois in the box, you're thinking, okay, well, the Kings can make this a 2-goal lead now, and then the game's really over. So it was pretty much as bad of a second period as you're ever going to see, right? The Jets
two
just
shots on goal.
Well, aside from the Dubois Connor Svechnikov line, I just didn't think the Jets really had anything going. The Kings play such a structured defensive game. We talked about it on this morning show. They know they don't have a lot of superstars, right? Andrzej Kopitar is a great player, and a guy like Alex Iafallo, great goal scorer, but they know that if they're going to win, they have to play a really tight, structured defensive game. So they did that for the most part, but DeMelo's goal just completely changed the momentum in that game, I thought. And you mentioned, atypical goal scorer in Mark Scheifele, right? What a time to get your first goal of the year, right? Just a nice pass from Ehlers, who looked like, he might leave the game. I tweeted this out, that should have been a penalty on Brendan Lemieux, whether you want to call that mean or whether you want to call that interference. Also, by the way, what is he doing with Evgeny Svechnikov? Svechnikov and Lemieux were just kind of, exchanging pleasantries. And then did Lemieux actually think that Svechnikov wanted to fight him? Come on, that was pretty ridiculous. So it was nice that Ehlers, stayed in the game and picked up the game-winning assist. But that wasn't a beautiful game. But at the end of the day, guys, the Jets just continue to rack up points. And if you think about it, that's all that matters. In hockey is not the type of sport where every single game is going to be a Picasso, as our buddy Claude Dewell used to say, right? So it was definitely not one of the better Jets victories, but you get the 2 points.
It certainly wasn't one of the. You don't get any marks for attractiveness in a victory, Dave. And this one wasn't attractive for the Jets. They were badly outplayed for a lot of the game. That second period, as Ezzy alluded to, was fairly atrocious. 2 shots on goal. Even for the vast majority of the third period, the Jets were pretty atrocious. There was maybe one before DeMelo tied the game. There was really one scoring chance that I can think of. It was off Pierre-Luc Dubois. Sort of took his shot and gathered his own rebound and came in, and Peterson had to make sort of a nice save off of a tough angle shot. But other than that, the Jets didn't really have anything going at all. And boom, at a blink of an eye, DeMelo ties it up. And then from that point on, the Jets really seemed like they got their skating legs behind them. Prior to that, they were sleepwalking through this game, and they are you know, if the Jets had lost in overtime or lost in the shootout, you would have said they were fortunate to get 1 point. To get 2 points in that game is really you should go to church or synagogue or whatever religious institution you prefer to abide by, and then thank your lucky stars for getting those 2 points in tonight's contest.
Yeah, but as of right now, that those 2 points slide you into first place in the Central, courtesy of your being. Yeah, and I'm just saying it's the fact that you're 8-3-3 now. So, a very unexpected victory based on, if you would have just watched that second period, you would have said, how the hell are the Jets having 2 points in the game? But it's a 60-minute hockey game, and I thought the Kings sat back on their lead once they established that lead, and they were comfortable not being overly aggressive. And I thought that's kind of what's been a problem for the Winnipeg Jets, if you think about it, sometimes is sitting on a 1-goal lead and they give it up, and then, anything can happen in overtime. And what a time for Mark Scheifele to score his first goal of the year. It's his 32nd ever game-winning goal, which moves him into a tie with Brian Little, third on the all-time franchise list for game-winning goals. So, look, he needed it. And this could be like, you're still not seeing the Mark Scheifele you're used to seeing, but like we've talked about for players, something like this can just be a complete turnaround. And, just the proverbial monkey off the back, and you could just see it. You could see the way, look, the team mobbed them anyways, because it's an overtime game winner. But the reality is, like, there's an extra oomph to that when a guy is, that snake bit at that, to this point in the season with everything that's gone on, and finally gets off of it in a big way, because it was a beautiful pass by Ehlers, as he said, and just a phenomenal shot by Mark Scheifele for the game-winning goal.
Well, and boys, I'm sorry, Drew, I was just going to say, we finally got the Scheifele Cop Ehlers line going. I've been talking about it for how long now, right? And obviously, Maurice knew that was in his toolbox, right? But, I thought that, like, what more can you say about Andrew Kopp right now? 15 points in 14 games, like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Like, it's unbelievable, right? And he deserves it, right? Like, this guy is working his buns off. We talked about, the great assist that he got on DeMelo's game-tying goal. But, I think Scheifele, Kopp, and Ehlers, like, I think that's the line you want to see. We'll wait and see, what happens next game. But I just thought, especially when those three were put together in the third period, it was a much more effective line.
Well, and we'll talk about the lines because Paul Maurice certainly went to the blender at various times during tonight's contest in an effort just to get really, Ehlers going, in an effort to get Scheifele going, in an effort to get Wheeler going. He was trying what he could to try and get them to create some magic, and it took until overtime for them to really click, obviously. But starting with the 3 forwards in overtime, something he hadn't done for a lot of the overtime periods so far this year. We know we saw that a lot last year and in years previous, but he went to that the trio of forwards to start overtime, and obviously was rewarded for it with Mark Scheifele getting the OT winner. But let's go back to the first period of tonight's game as we go sort of period by period through tonight's contest. And the Jets really started off very strong. Kyle Connor, his 11th of the year, as they were singing his praises as one of the best goal scorers on tonight's broadcast, as they should be, because he certainly is one of the NHL's preeminent scorers. And I think people are beginning to come around to that outside of this market, especially. He gets his 11th of the year, the assist to Logan Stanley, the assist to Pierre-Luc Dubois. And it's, a nice play in that Stanley gets the big shot from the point, and Connor is there to, gather up the rebound. Again, not necessarily where you expect him to score from, but he's been going to those non-traditional scoring areas for Kyle Connor. He did it against the San Jose Sharks on Thursday night, did it again tonight against the LA Kings, and less than 2 minutes into the game at the 1:59 mark of the first period, the Jets have that 1-0 lead, and you think good things are forthcoming for this Jets team after that goal.
Yeah, and there was nothing fancy, right, about that goal, right? Like, it's just, you tip the puck, you get the rebound. I mean, it wasn't the best defensive coverage by the Kings, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it's almost, bordering on absurd with Kyle Connor, right? Like, we talked about it, like he's well on pace for well over 50 goals, right? So, it just seems like he scores every single game now. So it was just a nice shot. I believe it was Logan Stanley, right? If I'm not mistaken, that took the shot, right? So 2 assists for Stanley tonight. And you kind of, if you think about it, guys, like, we could get back to Connor here because we can talk. I have a lot of time to talk about, how great of a season Connor is having. We had Jesse Pollock of TSN Bar Down on the show this morning. And I agree, like, he could be on the first line of Team USA. I think it's a guarantee he's going to be on, the roster. But Stanley and DeMelo as a pair, like, they don't get talked about maybe as much as guys like Josh Morrissey, Nate Schmidt, and then Dylan and Pionk. By the way, guys, I don't know if you guys noticed how good of a hip check that was by Neil Pionk on Dustin Brown. Like, that was old time Brian Marchment hockey.
Right,
if you're old enough to remember Brian Marchment.
Except Marchman would try and ruin the guy's career by taking him out at his knees, but
Yes,
it was right at the Jets. It was right at the Jets blue line, and Neil Pionk, he didn't go too low where Dustin Brown's going to have a problem with.
It was a clean hit. I actually thought it should have got more of a reaction from the crowd, like Dave. Like, I know none of us were there because we're basically hermiting in our houses with this storm that's going on outside. But it just seemed like the crowd didn't give it as much love as it should. And then you saw Dustin Brown later in the period. He had a nice little run at Neil Pionk. So that was the game within the game. But I thought, DeMelo and Stanley were really solid. We know.
If you would say, I was going to say, Dave, if you would say that the Jets are going to get points from their defense tonight, and that's not unusual, but 2 of the points are going to come from assists by Logan Stanley, and the other one's going to be a goal by Dylan DeMelo. You would have asked somebody what, maybe to lessen the sniffing salts that they're using prior to the game, because those aren't the guys that you expect to get on the scoreboard, to get on the score sheet for the Winnipeg Jets. But that's why, it really was a game where, on the back end, particularly, it came from unexpected sources.
Yeah. And that's, I think, part of what has led to the success for this Winnipeg Jets team with 8 wins on the season is the fact that you're getting a contribution from the defense that you just weren't getting in the last year or 2. So now the Jets have a productive back end, and it doesn't have to be Josh Morrissey every night, or it doesn't have to be Nate Schmidt every night, or it doesn't have to be Neil Pionk every night. I mean, again, I don't know how many more times we're going to call Dylan DeMelo. That's almost as rare as a Dmitry Kulikov goal. So I don't want to put too much pressure on him. Although Derek Forbort, I think, already has 2 goals for the Bruins, so he's off to a decent start over in Boston. But look, anytime you can get a contribution like that, and the reality is, there's no question to me, at least, that, and like as he said, that once this Jets team does have that, I don't want to parallel them too much, but it really does have that they're never out of a game. And like I said, I think LA adopted the wrong tack in the third period. I think it didn't look like it was going to be wrong to start the third, because to your point, Drew, earlier, the Jets weren't putting any pressure on originally. And you, like Ez said, you felt like, okay, here, you got Dubois in the box. Here's a good chance that LA is going to take the lead. And that, at that point, didn't seem like it'd be something that they could come back from. But, smart play by Andrew Kopp, who continues to show off that high level of intellect. And, Dylan DeMelo finished it off. Our photographer, Alexander James, was perfectly positioned at ice level there. So he's got some nice shots. I threw them up on the Instagram, so you can go check those out. He's got actually some really good shots from the pregame skate where the Jets were wearing those military uniforms. They're going to be auctioned off for military families. And so we put those up, and our friends at Eye Candy Air, Steve Nash, not the basketball player, the goalie mask painter, he did Connor Hellebuck's mask, and they often tag us. And Alex, it's one thing to see a graph and what it looks like in pictures and art, but when you actually see it on the ice, it's pretty slick. So Alex got some great.
Speaking of the mask, like, can we get a consensus here among the three of us and everybody in the chat that these heritage jerseys should be their permanent jerseys? Like those jerseys, I realize they're not probably going to be, but
yeah, there's no chance they're going to be.
There's no chance.
They are perfect.
And I mean, look, they're beautiful jerseys, and I feel that way, and you feel that way, and Dave probably feels that way, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat feel that way. But you know why they feel that way? It's because they remind us of when we were kids and when we were cheering on the Jets 1.0, and they remind us of remember when and reminiscing and everything like that. So there's a comfort level.
I love nostalgia, Drew. There's nothing wrong with nostalgia.
There's nothing wrong with nostalgia. There isn't. But
I'm gonna go to Fuddruckers after the show.
Didn't you drive to a Fuddruckers with Naomi on your first sort of getaway?
No, not Fuddruckers. Close. Okay. Basically like 3 or 4 months after we started dating.
Yeah, you went to Grand Forks.
No,
they went to Saskatoon. They went to
Moose Jaw.
Right.
Moose Jaw. Yes. Shout out to the Moose Jaw Warriors. Braden Point, right? We went for Bonanza.
Yeah.
Let's get some Bonanza love in the chat going.
That's when you knew it was love.
It was like the only like Bonanza in all of Canada, and Naomi and I drove whatever it is, 5 or 6 hours. I love the town of Moose Jaw. And we had Bonanza. It was great. Like we had the ice.
All you can eat ice cream bar.
No, but the ice cream maker. That
for sure.
And the salad bar.
I used to destroy the one out on McPhillips. Shout out to the North Enders in the chat.
In any event, we say good evening to all of you. Now that we've talked about Bonanza and Moose Jaw, we're right into the heart of tonight's Illegal Curve post-game show. We say good evening to all of you and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Phyllis, everybody's waiting for you to tell them to do it in the chat. I got to tell you, they're waiting there. They got their fingers hovering over the button, but so many people in the chat refuse to smash the like button until Phyllis gives them the go-ahead in the chat. So
you don't want to get Phyllis upset. So
no. Don't get Phyllis upset. Make sure you do as Phyllis says and smash the like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get alerted each and every time we go live here on. She told them to hit the thumb button. There you go. Phyllis has given everyone the permission to smash the like button. So go ahead and do that, everybody. And we appreciate all the support.
But Dave, the question is, has your mom figured out the like button yet? Has she managed to go back and retroactively like every single show we've done on YouTube?
She has not yet. She's a little befuddled right now, trying to get back to the channel. So she did say to me, she did speak to me today and say, you might have to put that on the computer for me. So I'll see what I can do.
There you go. You're not too far off, Dave. My dad at about 11:15 or 11:30 wanted to know what happened to the show. And I'm like, well, it ended 30 minutes ago, Dad. You were watching it, and then it ended. I'm not sure why that was confusing to you, but clearly that'll be tomorrow's topic of conversation. People are wondering if Ezzy got the milk after the post-game show.
How much milk does a guy need?
No, he did get the milk. He got the milk on Thursday. We talked about it on this morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So fear not, everyone. Ezzy was able to come back into his house. He did pick up the milk for his son. So Ezzy wins the Father of the Year award and the Husband of the Night award for his efforts on Thursday night.
And then I had to go get cream tonight.
Cream, like for coffee?
We were out of 10% cream. I was at 7-Eleven twice today.
Oh, so you were there less often than normal.
Yeah. And to take that one step further, because the streets are so crazy, and if you were listening last night or 2 nights ago or this morning or any of the shows, I live very close to a 7-Eleven, so we didn't really have anything.
I think I know where this is going, and this is already a little bit sad and troubling.
We picked up a family pizza from 7-Eleven for dinner, and Ruben and Ariella loved it. And just a heads up, if you're going to go get a pizza from 7-Eleven, call ahead, and you have to eat it like it has to come right out of the oven. You don't want to get one that's been sitting there for a while, but it was absolutely delicious. So shout out to the folks at 7-Eleven. I'm not going to say which one, but I was there a couple times today. Got the cream, got the milk, got the pizza, Drew. I'm good.
It's quite the life you live there, my friend. Quite the life. In any event, let's get back to tonight's contest.
It's something.
It's something, all right. The Los Angeles Kings tied it up 2 minutes and 3 seconds after the Jets took the lead. It was Carl Grundstrom going top cheddar, short side on Connor Hellebuck. A really nice shot, his third of the year. Assist to Trevor Moore. I thought Trevor Moore actually played a pretty good game using his speed, which is obviously his best asset. For his career in the NHL. Carl Grundstrom, nice shot, Probably Hellebuck probably wants it back. He doesn't expect to get beaten short side, top shelf, but it was almost the case of a excellent shot beating the goaltender. It was really that good of a shot. I mean, Hellebuck probably doesn't love it, but like I said, it was a pretty damn good shot.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I watched the replay a few times, and I agree with you. I mean, and I saw some people on Twitter that were saying that was a bit of a weak goal. It was a pretty nice shot, as you said, right? Like short side, top shelf. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, the goal doesn't matter in the game because the Jets won. But yeah, I mean, that's probably one that Hellebuck will tell you that he makes that save more times than it goes past him. But I would say more so it was a nice shot, and Carl Grundstrom deserved that goal.
It was sort of right after that goal, Dave, that the game really turned into a grinder. There really wasn't a lot for you got 2 goals in the first 4 minutes of the first period. So you think maybe we're going to see some speed demonstrated. We're going to see some back and forth. Well, that's not the LA Kings ticket to success by any stretch of the imagination. They are playing a tight checking game. That's when they're most successful. And the Jets, I think, almost fell into the trap of playing the Kings game rather than the game the Jets wanted to play, because right after that Grundstrom goal, there wasn't much going on for the rest of the game. The Jets had a power play in the first period, their only power play. Not much came of their power play opportunity. It was the puck over glass by Kyle Clegg, and it really turned into a grinder that suited the Kings style more than the Jets style at that point, Dave.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And like we said, you got to give the Kings credit. This isn't a team that came in and was limping into the contest. They had won 7 straight. Yeah, they work hard, and they won 7 in a row. And you don't win 7 games in a row by accident. And I saw some comments earlier in the day when we were doing the Saturday morning show, and which feels like 2 years ago, but and someone had said that the Kings were beating COVID teams that were dealing with that, but at the end of the day, if the San Jose Sharks, who were a COVID team, beat the Winnipeg Jets, so that doesn't necessarily equate to easy wins, as we've seen here in Winnipeg.
The Ottawa Senators beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-3 tonight, and I'm pretty sure.
Remember the game that was supposed to be postponed?
Yeah. What is going on?
So that's my whole point. So that I'm just saying. So the reality of the situation is you had a team that was coming in feeling very good about the way they've been playing. And we talked about the guys they're missing and the injuries they've suffered already early in the season to the back end. So this is an LA team that was feeling good about themselves. But like I said, they're a younger team in some elements of the game. Not obviously all of their guys like Kopitar and Danault aren't young, but a lot of young prospects who are getting their first and second years in the NHL. So I think that's kind of that element, right, of the team not knowing how to finish the Jets off and not knowing how to hold the win. And like I said, it's something that you've seen with the Jets where they start to become complacent and sit back and don't attack. And I get it. You don't want to be overly aggressive, but you also don't want to sit back so much so that, an unexpected shorthanded goal dissolves the game for you. And then at that point, like as it said, and we've talked about, the Jets just resumed control of the game, I thought, at that point, and felt like they were back in it, and the crowd woke up a little bit. They had been a little bit apathetic, understandably so, when the home side has 2 shots in the second period, especially given the fact that they played such a dominant second period against the San Jose Sharks. So you weren't, I'm not saying you were expecting that, but no 2 shots in the period, especially if you think about how the game started, right? The Jets outshot the Kings, 6-0, yeah. I think. It was around that number, 5-0, 6-0 to start the game. And then LA started to build up some life and scored the goal to tie it, and then started to build back into the game. And then obviously ended up with out shooting the Jets. But that to me was even in the third. And then you're like, well, hold on, what are the Jets doing here to impose their will? You're the team that's supposed to be fighting for a comeback. And they didn't seem like it. They were, faceoffs were in the Jets zone. But eventually, like I said, you take advantage of a mistake, a miscue. You get back in the contest, you feel some life, you get some jump, the crowd gets back into it, and you win a game, or you get at least a point, and then you end up winning in overtime, a game that you probably could have very easily lost in regulation.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, Drew, about this Kings group, and Dave's right. I mean, you've got a little bit of a mixture of young players and old players. We've talked about that. The 3 California teams, Dave, are all like that, right? Like that's why these teams are all in the quote unquote rebuild. I realize people hate hearing that word, but a few guys that stood out to me. Matt Roy, I thought looked really sharp, and he's playing with Alex Edler. Obviously, Drew Doughty's out of the lineup. He's usually on the top pair or the second pair. And Oli Mata, who you would remember, he was he's bounced around a little bit now, but with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Cale Clegg is a guy. Speaking of the Moose Jaw Warriors, he was traded to the Moose Jaw Warriors in his last year. Former Wheat King, second round pick. I thought Cale Clegg looked good. So I mean, this is a Kings team that I think people are going to have to stop saying that this is just a fluke. Like we talked about the Pacific Division, it's not as bad as maybe we thought it was at the beginning of the season. And, this Kings team, you look at some of these guys and they've come up through the Ontario rain and, they're not a joke. Like this Kings team, I think could squeak into the playoffs. And there were a lot of people that were picking the Kings to squeak into the playoffs. And a lot of people, I think, were kind of shaking their head. And Drew said it this morning. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the play of Jonathan Quick, but Cal Peterson, I mean, he is a backup at this point in his career, but he had a strong game, like didn't face a ton of rubber. But, I think Peterson is a very capable NHL goaltender. So, yeah, this Kings team, give them a ton of credit. We talked about it. They almost kind of came into Winnipeg and stole a couple points. But, the Jets stuck with it, and that's the type of team they are. All it takes is one shot.
Exactly right. And let's talk about that one shot that gave the Kings the lead, and it came off the stick of Brendan Lemieux at the 14:22 mark of the second period. So late in the second period, a second period that really didn't see anything happening up until that point in time. And it's a really nice play by Blake Lizotte. It's a nice play by Brendan Lemieux to drive the net, because Brendan Lemieux, that's exactly what he's going to do. He's not a perimeter guy. He's a guy who's going to always crash the net, even if the puck is nowhere to be found. Blake Lizotte knows that. It is
another good player from Minnesota. The Jets should get him.
A quasi 2-on-1, and he shoots it to the far pad of Hellebuck, knowing that it's going to create a rebound. Mark Scheifele was, I don't really know what his defensive approach on that play was, because he is coming back. He's basically
awful is what it was.
You're right, Ezzy.
It really was.
He's basically coming back with Lemieux. He's even with Lemieux, and then for some inexplicable reason, he jams on the brakes. He puts the skate. He just stops skating, and he abandons Brendan Lemieux to cover nobody in the middle of the slot. And Lemieux has a tap in goal. If Scheifele sticks with Lemieux and ties him up, as opposed to abandoning him, it's probably not a 2-1 Kings lead. I mean, I don't know. I don't know
it's
what
inexplicable, Drew. It was effort. I mean, you talk a lot about that, right? And that's another one of those words we talked about, consistency and everything like that. Like that was just not a good enough effort by Scheifele, period.
But it's more, but I agree, but it's more than just effort there, Ezzy, because he was with Lemieux and then he just arbitrarily, jammed on the brakes. He arbitrarily stopped. It takes a lot of effort to, if you're going at a fairly high rate of speed, to all of a sudden, to snowplow almost your goaltender by accident. If he just keeps skating, he's with Lemieux. I had to go back and watch the replay again.
It was poor defensive coverage is what it was.
Yeah, but his awareness is just it's just so bizarre in the defensive zone that he almost loses a basic hockey approach, which is cover the guy who's right there. There's nobody else back there. There's not another defenseman who's going to pick up Lemieux right there. I just don't understand. I'd love to be a fly on the wall during the video review of that play to understand what was going through his mind, what his approach was there, because to me, it just doesn't make any sense.
I don't even think it's that complicated, though. I mean, I'm with you. We were all watching the game tonight, and Scheifele was right there, as you said. You just stick with him. So I don't even think it's that complicated. I just think he made a poor play defensively. I really think it's that simple. It's hard to know why he made that hard play, right? Scheifele is probably going to get asked about that. I'm not sure, Dave, if maybe if he spoke to the media. He probably did, because he scored the game-winning goal in overtime. I'm not sure if anybody's going to ask him about that, but yeah, I mean, and again, we don't want to harp on him too long here.
Well, he got redemption by scoring the OT winner.
Right. But, I mean, like, come on. I mean, anybody that was watching that game, and, Scheifele has been criticized a lot for his defensive play. He might be, the Jets' best offensive player. His numbers this year might not show it, but we know that, he's going to most likely be around that point per game pace. But that was just I mean, like you said, Drew, if he sticks with Brendan Lemieux there,
Mhm.
just gets a stick on it or something like that, then it's still a tie game. So, I mean, there was an odd man rush there. I forget which defenseman made the play at the Kings. Yeah, there you go. It was
Morrissey
so,
who pinched at the Kings blue line. But
yeah,
they weren't in a
that
bad
created
position.
a 2-on-1, but also it was a preventable goal, Drew.
Yes, completely, Dave. I mean, I don't know if you saw it any different than we did, but I mean, it was just just the decision making was so odd there that I really have no idea what he was thinking or what he possibly could have thought that he saw.
And the irony, of course, is that there have been more noticeable 55 back checks of late. I know people in the chat are saying, him and defense don't exactly go well hand in hand. And I don't disagree with that statement, but there have been, it's funny because I remember tweeting, I don't remember which game it was, where he had some sort of phenomenal back check to break up a really good chance against. And I said, that would be Mark Scheifele. Yes, you read that tweet right. Mark Scheifele with the tremendous back check. So
yeah, it was a third, like when him and Wheeler were on the third line with Lowry there. I remember the same play because I think I was tweeting, it was a road game, and I think I was tweeting from the IC account.
Anyways,
that it was a really impressive back check.
Anyways, the point is that it's not necessarily but interestingly enough, for what we talked about, Team Canada's watching this kind of stuff. Like you can't be casual and say, well, I'm going to be an offensive guy, because they've got plenty of offensive guys who are defensively responsible if you want to play for Team Canada. So while Mark Scheifele, we'll see what this goal does for him. We'll see what this does for him overall for his game. And maybe, like these guys, look, they can say as long as the team's winning. And a guy like Blake Wheeler, he believes that. Blake Wheeler, who, I truly do believe that he doesn't really care if he puts up, 20 points this season, as long as the team wins. That's all that's going to matter. And the reality is he's got his money. He's not worried about that. He's going to be getting $8.3 million for quite a few more years. So the reality for Blake Wheeler is he can put team first. And I'm not saying Mark Scheifele can't, but at the same time, these guys, that helps them feel that they're contributing. And Paul Maurice even talked about that. And he was talking about it under the guise of Evgeny Svechnikov, where I think every single writer today wanted to write about him, because 7 of the 9 questions in the pregame availability or morning availability were about Evgeny Svechnikov. But
then he gets taken off the line throughout the rest of the game.
That was the irony, was that everybody's like, what does he have to do to stay on the line? And then like the TSN headline was, Svechnikov stays another game. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why isn't he staying another game? Like, what am I missing here? Like, it's not as if he's anchoring them. But anyways, so I just thought it was funny because it just almost like the kiss of death for Evgeny Svechnikov. He comes and speaks at the media. Andrew Kopp gives him a lot of love in the availability. And then, like I said, Paul Maurice, all the questions are about him, and sure enough, he's taken off. But
I thought Svechnikov was fine tonight, Dave.
No, I thought he was fine too.
I remember he had a tip. Brendan, if I'm not mistaken, Brendan Dillon took a shot. Svechnikov tipped it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's also. It wasn't his. Like I said, it wasn't his greatest game. And the line blender was Paul Maurice, you kind of knew after that second period. I don't think anybody thought that the forward lines, at least I didn't think the forward lines were going to stay the same after that second period. Like Paul Maurice had to do something. The Jets were flat as Winnipeg.
Well, let's hold that thought. Let's go to break. Let's take our commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the forward lines. We'll talk about the juggling that we saw. We'll give away a toque. We'll give away some bagels, right, Ezzy? We got both of those to give away.
I already know who I'm giving the bagels to.
Okay, there you go. Ezzy's already got his bagel winner, so hang tight. The Manitoba Moose Minute is up on the second half of the post-game show. Much more to come. The Jets win 3-2 in overtime. You're listening, you're watching, you're chatting with the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, why are you so happy?
I just crushed 2 fresh Bagel Smith bagels with schmear. They're open on Jets home game nights until puck drop.
Didn't you have Bagel Smith for lunch too?
Yes, I did. What's your point?
Come on, Bagel Boy, let's go to the game.
Bagelsmith is Winnipeg's first and only Montreal-style bagel shop located at 185 Carlton Street. Visit bagelsmith.ca.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza, the perfect place for a drink. Or the new pickle pizza. Across from this guy, who's getting his fill of some classic cactus cut nachos. Next to some hockey fans that just saw a nasty OT winner. Boston Pizza. Enjoy some... What? Look at that guy. Just having a soak, eh? You do you. Enjoy some old fall favorites and some new ones, however you like, at Boston Pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. The second half of the Illegal Curve post-game show starts now on our YouTube channel, on our Twitter page, and our Facebook feed as well. Dave Manouk is in the top right, Ezra Ginsburg is in the bottom middle. I am your host, Drew Mandel. Nice to see so many of you on this Saturday night, just before 9:30 in the evening, just like it was so nice to see so many of you this morning, about 12 hours ago, when the Illegal Curve hockey show was going strong. Or as a reminder, we do the Illegal Curve post-game show after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. We do the Illegal Curve hockey show Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. We'll be back at it on Tuesday night after the Jets and Oilers play the first of the back-to-back home and home between the Jets and the Oilers. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in Vancouver to face the Canucks, and then back Saturday morning with the Illegal Curve hockey show. So plenty of time between us and our loyal audience, which we appreciate so very much. On the out-of-town scoreboard, St. Louis Blues were in Carolina tonight. It was a hard-fought battle, but the Hurricanes defeat the Blues by a 3-2 margin in regulation. The Jets now leapfrog the St. Louis Blues. They have 19 points. The Blues have 18, albeit the Blues having a game in hand still. The Wild are in Seattle to play the Kraken right now, and the Predators are handing the Arizona Coyotes yet another loss. They're up 4-1 with 6.5 minutes to go there. So the Predators will also leapfrog the Blues and move into a tie with the Winnipeg Jets, but the Jets will have a game in hand on the Predators. So you can, as we talked about this morning, that real hierarchy in the Central Division is taking root even more with the Jets, the Predators, the Wild, and the Blues sort of in that top shelf. And then the Avalanche.
The Predators are not in the top shelf.
Well, they are right now. They're going to improve to 9-5-1 on the season.
We'll see where they are in a couple of months.
Okay, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but right now they're 9-5-1 on the season. The Avalanche, still struggling. They're only 5-5-1, but they've only played 11 games. And you heard about it on the broadcast if you were watching earlier tonight. The Dallas Stars, they're a team in a little bit of disarray, a lot of upheaval in that Stars organization over their slow start to the season. And the less said, of course, about the Blackhawks and the Coyotes, the better, because this is a family-friendly show. It's rated, I think, at best PG. And if we talked about either of those two teams, we'd be talking about some triple X NC-17 sort of action, and we don't need any
They're
of that.
just bad teams. Like,
that's basically
simply
it.
put.
It's like watching a
That's all you need to say. They stink.
And there you go. Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. Speaking of things that don't stink, Bagel Smith Bagels. Ezzy's going to give away some bagels now to one of our loyal audience members who are joining us in the chat on this Saturday night.
Yeah, I hope Adam Sitkowski is. If you were listening to last weekend's show, you'd know that my son Ruben pocket dialed him by accident. He is someone who came in and, not knowing us, we had ice rented. He played goal and he was really good too. But I saw a comment that he missed the overtime goal because he was boiling potatoes. So I thought that was pretty funny.
As one usually does.
Yeah. And so, him being a goalie, he'll appreciate bagels because, of course, that's for the shutout, right? So Adam Sitkowski, we are going to give you 6 Bagel Smith bagels. So head on down anytime to 185 Carlton Street and, claim your bagels.
Well, so for more information, Adam should probably send Ezzy an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com.
Actually, no, for the bagels, I've got his name. That's all. He doesn't need to email me. I mean, he can email me if he wants to.
Well, usually Drew, it's a username, but because Drew,
usually,
knows,
if
it's a username, then you email.
I need a real name because I can't tell Phil, the owner of Bagel Smith Bagels. I can't tell him, expect Kenny's water bottle to come down, and he's not going to know who that is. So even though we love Kenny's water bottle, we need an actual name.
There you go. So Adam Sitkowski, congratulations.
Boy, Adam.
It's a big week for you. You were pocket dialed by Ezzy's son Adam. Very early in the morning, and now you've won some bagels from our friends at Bagel Smith. So really, that makes up for the very early morning wake up call from Ezzy's kid. Let's keep talking about tonight's game. We saw the line blender come out at various points in time in that second period, a second period that saw the Jets only rack up 2 shots on goal. So there was no wonder that Paul Maurice tried to switch things around for a while there. We saw, I believe, Scheifele and Wheeler with, we saw Nikolai Ehlers sort of down on that third line. So we saw Scheifele and Wheeler and Kopp together. Ehlers was playing with Lowry and Harkins, I believe, at a point in time. Then obviously the game ended with Scheifele and Kopp and Ehlers together. We saw Wheeler go up to play with Connor and Dubois. We saw Svechnikov go down to that third line to play with Harkins and Lowry. So really, for a team that was certainly struggling to generate anything, Paul Maurice recognized that and tried to switch things around. I don't think he necessarily thought of moving Dylan DeMelo up front to be a forward and a sniper, but in any event, that's what ended up being the catalyst for the Jets getting the 3-2 overtime victory after DeMelo tied it up. So what are your thoughts about sort of the blending of the lines that we saw from about the halfway point of the second period through the remainder of the game? Dave, you go first.
I would say that, when you're talking about Ehlers, Ehlers, Lowry, and Harkins, I actually thought, they had some decent looks and they had some decent zone time. They obviously, didn't translate into a goal. I wouldn't expect that line to stay together. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense as a line.
Well, guys, Ehlers is your most skilled forward. So, not to say that Lowry and Harkins don't have skill, but was it Ehlers? No, hold on. What was the line here? Because it was Ehlers, Kopp, and Scheifele in the third period.
It was Ehlers, Kopp, and Scheifele was the line sort of.
Who was with Lowry and Harkins? I forget now.
Well, they moved Svechnikov down there.
Sorry,
after they moved right. Wheeler up with Connor and Dubois in the third period.
There you go. Connor and Dubois and Wheeler. Okay, so let's focus on that line here for a second, because obviously Connor and Dubois and Svechnikov have been together for basically the whole year, or the majority of the whole year. I know a lot of people in the comments are asking about Blake Wheeler. He was not noticeable tonight, guys. He did not have a good game, and they're trying everything they can to get him going. I've said, I don't have to repeat it. I love Andrew Kopp up with Scheifele and Ehlers. To me, that could be your top line for the majority of the season. You can't tell me that Kopp hasn't earned it, right? So we have to kind of get out of this kind of mentality. Dave has talked about this, of first line, second line, third line. Look at it 12 forwards or maybe even top 9. But to me, that line works. And I could see there being some permanence to that line, right? So with Svechnikov there with Lowry and Harkins, like, you know, I could see there being some permanence to that line as well, especially, you know, if he's not getting it done with Connor and Dubois. So, I mean, maybe you do see Wheeler stay out there with them, and Paul Stastny is an option for Tuesday night versus Edmonton. But as Dave mentioned on this morning show, I mean, Stastny's got to get into a practice. He's not going to just show up, you know, without practicing.
I think that's
and get
into
a game. But exactly, so that's the big kind of question mark here. Is Stastny, because once he comes back, I mean, you expect him to probably, you know, be on the third line. I mean, we'll see what happens here. But yeah, it's kind of tough to say. I would say that, you know, the Kopp, Scheifele, and Ehlers line, I would expect that line to stick together, because I thought they were pretty good in the third period. And obviously Scheifele got the big goal in overtime, the winner. But aside from that, I don't know, Dave. Like, I'm kind of torn. I don't necessarily see, you know, I don't see anything more than those just being moves that Maurice made in game, because the Jets were struggling to create offense. So look I mean, the fourth line didn't really have an impact on the game at all. I have liked Harkins' game. I think, you know, he deserves, based on, look, Harkins is working out there. He is working out there. And he obviously, you know, got the goal last game. He's got a couple of goals on the year. I mean, Lowry's going to be your third line center unless you're going to move him on the wing. But I think, Dave, Stastny being out of the lineup kind of creates it just the lines. There's something off about the lines a little bit here.
Yeah, and I would suggest, Ezzy, that, you know, I like that. Is Ehlers dealing with something? It seems that way. It seems like he's not at 100%. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that he's necessarily at 100%. But I have to tell you that
skills were okay on the overtime.
No. I don't think it's anything major, obviously, but I'm just saying that I think he's dealing with something. And I just think that, but if you have a healthy Ehlers, him with Scheifele and Andrew Kopp, I agree. That's real good. I think you could leave the Kopp, the Dubois, Connor, and Svechnikov line together. I think if you have, you know, Lowry, Wheeler, Harkins, or Lowry, Wheeler, Stastny. I'm saying when Stastny's healthy, that's a good. That's a really good third line. I mean, it's funny because someone said, "Isn't that the most expensive third line in the NHL?" It may be, but that's still a good third line that's going to contribute and be able to do some things. And then, you know, we'll see what happens with that fourth line, whether it's, you know, Nash, Toninato, I got to say it the right way after the Jets release there. Yeah. And, you know, Vesalainen and Nash. So you have to figure out who that's going to be. But ultimately it's really those nine. And like I said, getting all of these guys going, we'll see what happens. They got a really exciting series coming up. I don't want to go too far ahead again to talk about the Oilers, but I'm just saying, like, that should really be able to get everybody up. There's going to be a lot of excitement for that game, even though these aren't necessarily, you know, obviously divisional rivals, but at the same time, you've got that playoff history from last year, and that's going to carry over, I suspect, at least in the first couple of games we would expect. So, yeah, we'll see. But I like I said, I like those lines because I think they're a good blend. I think you have a mix of skill and smarts on each line, some checking, some, you know, responsible defense there. So I think, like, from a, you know, a balanced perspective, you know, rather than going back to Scheifele, Wheeler, and Connor, I mean, I again, I could be wrong, but I just don't see that as, I think that's kind of gone by the way of the dodo, really. Like, I just don't see how you're going to break up that Connor and Dubois pairing right now.
I think you might see
it. Go ahead, Drew.
I was just going to say, I think you might see it in the course of a game if the Jets are struggling to generate anything. Like,
of course.
I wouldn't have been surprised to see it, you know, in the third period if the struggles had continued. And, you know, and it doesn't bother me at that point in time because you need to try and get something to give your team life. But I would agree with you that, you know, look, a Wheeler, let's assume Stastny's back for Tuesday, because Paul Maurice sort of certainly alluded to it, like it might be possible that for Tuesday's game, but a Wheeler, Stastny, Lowry line should be successful. There's no reason why that line shouldn't be successful. Maybe not offensively dynamic, but it should certainly be a line.
Not only that, you're not taking on the top first and second team of the lines of the other team.
And still is pretty offensively dynamic, right? Like, you're talking about guys that are normally in the top six for the Jets, right, Drew? Right. I know what you're saying, though. I mean,
and Stastny has
at this point in their career. Yeah. So Stastny and Wheeler are at this point in their careers are not as dynamic as Connor Ehlers. We're not saying that, but as Dave mentioned, you're going to get some, well, in theory, you're going to get some better matchups, right? It's not going to be your kind of typical third line checking line that we've come to expect, right? Like it's certainly not, the 2017, 18, 19, Tanev, Kopp, Lowry line, right? But I think, just listening to what Dave was saying there about, Wheeler and the lines, I think, and this is just, kind of my take, my opinion here, my observation is that it's almost like the Paul Maurice and the coaching staff are a little bit too focused on getting Wheeler going offensively, and they're kind of forgetting that his overall game and his role on this team is what really needs to get going, right? Like Wheeler's going to get his points, especially on the power play. Like I'm not as concerned about that. I don't think any of us were really that concerned about Scheifele either, right? Like it was just a matter of time before he was going to put one in the back of the net. But that's what I think I would like to see is some consistency in Wheeler's game, like the offensive numbers and everything like that. I mean, Wheeler's just not the point per game player he is anymore. I mean, it's pretty clear, right? Like I'm not saying that he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I think I just want to see more of an impact on the game. Like to me tonight, Wheeler just didn't have any impact. Like I forgot he was on the team for that second period, right? Like it's just like, where was he? So that's kind of, my kind of take on that, Dave, is that, it's not just about, goals and assists, but if you are able to get a lot of production from your third line offensively, obviously that's what you want. But the Jets keep winning, boys. Like they keep winning, they keep racking up points. As Dave mentioned, they're in first place in the Central. We expect them to be, a top 2 team in the Central, by the time the regular season is over. But there's no doubt that, aside from the chemistry and the production that you're getting from Connor Dubois, it's kind of weird because you're winning a lot of games and you're getting a lot of goals from kind of unlikely sources, right? Like one night it's Dominic Toninato, one night it's Jansen Harkins, one night it's Dylan DeMelo, and that's the sign of a good team. I'm not saying that this isn't a good team. All I'm saying is, there's something about I said this, that the lines are off. To me, that's kind of what I'm kind of trying to figure out myself, and I imagine the coaching staff is as well. Like, what line can they depend on aside from Connor Dubois and whoever happens to be on their wing?
Well, I think they expect that it'll be. I think they would expect it to be a line of Scheifele, Ehlers, and Kopp, and we'll see if that line together come. I guess they're off tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, and I believe they have practice on Monday ahead of Tuesday's contest against the Edmonton Oilers. So
they're off tomorrow.
Okay, they're off tomorrow, so it'll be a quiet Sunday. You can enjoy a little bit of a reprieve from all this intense hockey action and all this intense hockey talk.
Just watch NFL football all day long, Drew.
That's certainly what you can do. I plan to catch a few NFL games during my afternoon tomorrow as well.
You're gonna have some chips and dip tomorrow, Drew.
Probably not. I don't think I have any chips or dip in my house, and I am.
Really? You're not a dipper?
Not overwhelmingly. I don't really dip very often. And I guess there is a 7-Eleven relatively close to my house, but I'm not going to be as eager to go there as you, my good man. Ezzy, I want you to think and figure out who you're going to give the tough duck toque to.
I know. I'm ready. You want to do it now?
Don't say, no, I don't want to do it yet. I don't want to do it yet because it's time that everyone's been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, the Manitoba Moose Minute.
Wow. With applause. I like it. That's pretty good. Well, the Manitoba Moose concluded their 6-game road trip in big fashion, destroying the Grand Rapids Griffins 6-2 to finish it off 3-2-1 overall during these 6 games. Really good game. I mean, they outshot them 19-4 in the first period, scored 4 times. I think they gave up. They didn't have a great second period, much like the Jets. I think 10-2, they got outshot in the second period, gave up 2 goals. Arvid Holm was in net, so he picked up his second win. And then they outshot them again. Well, I'm going to look down at my 14-2 in the third period. So, it's one of the things Daniel Fink talked about, right? They've only been outshot once this entire season. And this Moose team they dominate. They really do dominate the play more often than not. Contributions across the board. Nobody jumping out at CJ Cease got his first goal. The Jets 2014 fifth rounder, I think. He got his first goal of the season with 1 assist. Johnny Kovacevic had 2 assists, but it was right across the board. Jimmy Olney got a goal. Mike Yesimon got a goal. Cole Meyer got a goal. So that's what you want to see, a balanced attack. The prospects all helped out. Ville Heinola had an assist. I think Declan Chisholm had an assist. So Chisholm, had an assist. So a good effort by the Manitoba Moose. They'll be able to come home tomorrow feeling good about themselves, feeling good about their game because, like Dan said, this is a team that should have a better record probably, but they don't. And, at the end of the day, as he said on the show, you are what your record says you are. And so it's whether you deserve better, that's all well and good. But the reality is
playoffs.
It's how many points. It's how many points that are in your standings bag. So very good news for the Manitoba Moose that they're going to come home. They've got 5 games at home, starting with 3. Very unusual against Milwaukee. So they'll have played Milwaukee 5 times in the last 9 starts. After this next 3-game set, and I think what do we say? Thursday. Is it Thursday, Friday, Sunday? I think
Thursday, Friday, Sunday. That's what we talked about.
So I may be doing the post game show from the from downtown Canada Life Center if the Moose and Jets games, because the Jets play where
8 o'clock Central Time on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I mean,
Thursday.
Once I finish my Moose responsibilities, I may just stay at the arena and do it from there. We'll see.
Okay,
but I gotta be back because Ezzy needs. Well, I'm just gonna give Ezzy a key. Forget this noise.
I need food. You have to come home to feed me.
Okay, Ezzy, who's getting the Tough Duck Toque for tonight's hardest hitting comment?
Okay, we're going to give it to Phyllis because first off, Phyllis is awesome. I thought I gave Phyllis a toque already for one of her comments. So we're going to give her the toque tonight. And the comment was at 9:34. So about 10 minutes ago. I'm going to read it here. Wheeler's interview was eye-opening. I agree with Phyllis there. I think he's accepted that others have moved into first-line minutes, and it seems to be okay with him. And I agree with that. So Phyllis, we're going to give you a toque. So just send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com. And all you need to do is send me your address. And then the good folks at Tough Duck will send you a toque. And unlike a couple of weeks ago when we could still see the grass, everybody needs the toque now. I was wearing a toque today, shoveling again. It's just ridiculous. Like my back's going to go out again.
Is it the same toque you're currently wearing?
No, this is a Fireball toque.
There you go.
Courtesy of our friends at Seagram's. So yeah, I have a pretty eclectic toque collection, Drew. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely be rocking the Tough Duck toque this winter, as well as the IC toque. So yeah, congrats to Phyllis and thanks to Tough Duck.
Well, you certainly are. You have an eclectic collection of toques for an eccentric guy. I would say that. Dave M, any final thoughts before we wrap it up and we don't talk to each other for at least a solid 48 hours until Tuesday's post-game show?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's good timing, Drew, because the battery on the computer is starting to die. It's like, listen, you've been all day. Let me out. But it's a big day for sports in Winnipeg, for hockey teams based in Winnipeg. The Jets won, the Moose won, and the Ice won. So it was a trifecta. The Bombers lost, of course, but we're talking about hockey. So
and the Bisons won.
The Bisons won.
Give a shout out to the Bisons. Bison football team. They won the Hardy Cup semifinal today at a very, very cold and snowy stadium in Winnipeg on the campus of the University of Manitoba.
Exactly.
Manitoba's dominating right now. Manitoba
right.
and Winnipeg. It's the year of the Bison.
There you go. So anyway, it's a good day in that regard. I just want to thank everyone for joining us again, and make sure smash that like button because that helps us with the algorithm, and that algorithm helps us in some capacity that we're not entirely certain of, but apparently it does.
There you go. We want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. They help make the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the Illegal Curve post-game show, and IllegalCurve.com a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Bagel Smith, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, and our good friends at Rolly's Transfer, Moving, and Storage. Support these fine local businesses because they continue to support Illegal Curve Hockey. We'll be back at it on Tuesday night for the post-game show following the Jets and the Oilers right around 9:40 p.m., give or take a couple minutes on either side. So stay tuned for that. On your way out, if you haven't already done so, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, get alerted each and every time we go live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. On my second screen, I see that Kenny and Rennie have began the post-game show. So head on over there, tell them that Illegal Curve sent you. In the meantime, for Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks for watching, and until Tuesday night, we wish you good night and good luck.